Hey, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. Are you an e-commerce brand who is spending at least $20,000 per month on paid media? Are you looking to grow rapidly? Well, then you are in exactly the right place that you want to be. We are here chatting with Tim Keen from Loop Club, that is at loop.club. They work exclusively with Shopify e-commerce brands with aggressive growth goals. They have spent over $100 million on paid media. They have expertise for driving growth of businesses of all shapes and sizes. Tim, glad to be talking to you.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, Robert.
And it's a pleasure to have you. So with all the craziness, all the fast moving things happening with e-commerce and Shopify and everything that goes along with that, I mean, tell me what we need to know. What has your focus been lately as far as with these brands you've been working with, growing them? Like kind of what's on your mind these days?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a really, really crazy time in the industry, as I'm sure that everyone knows. So obviously this time last year was COVID. So all of these e-commerce brands all of a sudden spiked. We're able to acquire a ton of new customers very cost effectively. But things are changing in that ecosystem really quickly. Apple is clamping down on privacy restrictions, which is changing the ways that we can market on Facebook. It's making it more difficult for brands without a huge amount of expertise to advertise profitably on Facebook. It's making reporting more difficult. So it's more difficult to see exactly what's working. And then there's also been new changes announced for email with iOS 15, which is coming out later in the year. So we are kind of weathering the storm here, and we're seeing like a real shakeout, a real change in the industry. But the lucky thing, at least what we keep kind of telling everyone, which is true, which is that the fundamentals of marketing have never been more important. Like having a clear value proposition, having compelling creative, having a real reason for customers to buy and a strong value proposition is moving the needle still. And there is plenty of opportunity on these platforms, but it's an interesting time in the space.
It seems like it's constantly being disrupted. And whenever you think about whenever, Apple comes out with this new rule, or Facebook restricts this, it seems like it's easy to panic and give up. But I think the way that I think I see it, and I think the way you see it, is that it weeds out the competition, the people that can't adapt. And I mean, who wants to be in an industry anyway that just like stays stagnant? I mean, you think about how long did it take taxis to finally become obsolete? Like it feels like it took way too long for that to happen. And it seems like, I mean, it can be frustrating though, right? To see like, oh, now my email deliverability is kind of messed up by the new iOS, or, well, now I have this app and I can't get access to the data I used to. And so yeah, it seems like this disruption, it seems like it's a good thing, but also like, it seems like every week there's some new wrench thrown into the works there. And so, I mean, how do you even stay on top of that? Because I mean, sure, you could say like, well, I read the news every day and I follow this and I attend conferences, but doesn't it get to the point where like your brain is just completely just filled up and overloaded with all the things you have to keep track of?
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely. But that's the job. Like if you're in this industry, if you're trying to acquire new customers, you have to, the number one thing that we screen for when we hire people is the ability to learn really quickly. That's like the biggest determinant of success. It's the only thing that matters. We'd much rather hire someone with half the knowledge who learns twice as fast than someone with a ton of knowledge who is a slow learner, because that is the thing. If you like clicking around the internet and learning new things and discovering like different ways of working, this is a good job for you. Because the pace of change is increasing, yes, but it has always been really fast. It's always been really rapid change. Facebook ads has only existed really for 10 years. And that's like, how long is 10 years? Like even in that time, we're seeing massive, massive change in the industry, but it still is that like marketing is still the same. Like if you read these classic marketing textbooks, if you read like David Ogilvy or anything like that, like what they were doing was they would go to newspapers and they would use two different coupon codes, and they put them in two different newspapers, and they would use the coupon codes to track like what was the conversion rate of this ad in the newspaper, what was which copy performed better than the other based on the coupon code. And that's fundamentally the same principle. We're just doing it at a different scale and with more sophisticated technology. But really what you're doing at your core is trying to get a message in front of someone for an affordable price, for a price you're willing to pay, and then to have the resulting revenue from that communication be more than you spent on communicating with that person. That's the whole game. And like that is, it doesn't matter whether that's Facebook ads or Google ads or email or skywriting or pigeon messaging. Like it's the same fundamental skill. And the channel, like if you get too addicted to the channel or too addicted to one way of working, like you're setting yourself up.
Yeah, I agree completely that it's the vehicle to get you there, and I'm right there along with you. Like I love diving into the old copywriting books, like Eugene Schwartz or something like that, or like a Robert Collier letter book or things like that. And I almost feel like I'm sometimes like rediscovering old things that people forgot. If there's like some old timey like headline or a way they did the offer, I'm like, man, that hasn't been done in a while, and then maybe we can like breathe new life to that in some kind of like a landing page or a Facebook ad. And so I've kind of seen what you've seen, where I've known people that get so stuck in like Facebook ads, and they think that they're just a Facebook ad person. They only think in Facebook ads, and then what at least I see happening is they get stuck in like the Facebook ads mindset from 5 years ago, and they're like resistant to adapt and change into whatever new things that get brought in there. And so yeah, that's kind of really, I think that's a healthy way of looking at it. There's the marketing fundamentals, and to kind of have the both sides of the coin of being curious and knowing what the latest trends are, but also not forgetting that it's still just these old ideas expressed in a new way. And something that you touched on there also was really interesting about how like we're overwhelmed with all this information, and it's important to be a fast learner, and it's better to learn fast than to have a whole wealth of knowledge. And I mean, I just had a conversation the other day about someone where we were talking about how like no one clicks to page 2 on Google. And I was saying like, when I search something, I click to like page 4 of Google, just really quick to see what the lay of the land is. And then I go back and like I'll fall down like a YouTube hole or a Reddit hole all the time. And I think that not a lot of people kind of have that sort of, that just like the drive for knowledge, but also being able to sift through the bad from the good. And so, okay, so what is a good starting point? Having said that, with like all the mess of things to learn and not to learn, and you said that having these marketing fundamentals is important. Is there like a marketing fundamental that we're all missing out on, or that is like a really common thing that if we just looked at it this way, a lot of us could fix up a lot of what we're doing wrong? Anything come to mind there?
Yeah, definitely. So creative, I would say creative is the biggest piece that most people are still sleeping on. Like it's changing now, and I'm seeing more media buyers and media buyer forums and stuff be like, the creative is the thing. But I remember when I started running media, I would go on forums and I would like learn all these different techniques, and they were all about exactly like you said, like traditional kind of Facebook ad things, like put your ads, the way to structure your ad account and the way to analyze the data and the way to look at the kind of back end technical aspects of the performance. But there's nothing on like what a good performing ad actually is. And I didn't invest any time or energy really in making high quality ads. When I say high quality, I don't mean expensive. That the price that you pay to make an ad has almost nothing to do with how well it performs. What I mean is the ability for the ad to be persuasive. So think about people are scrolling on their phones when they're on Facebook. Like the mode of consumption is like, it's like being at a casino. Like you're like looking at your phone and just swiping up and you're waiting for something kind of stimulating to pop up. So what you have to do to get someone's attention is first like attract their attention in the first 3 seconds, like something jarring or special or something with movement has to happen. Otherwise people are just going to keep scrolling. And then what people don't do is leverage user-generated content, but then also just close-ups on the product to make it really compelling. You want to use that time that you have people's attention to make it very, very clear to them why they should purchase. So it might be text on screen that points out the main features of the product. It might be a glowing testimonial from a customer looking at the camera and saying like what it did for them. I see so many ads, so many ads that are under optimized, or just a product image that someone's kind of thrown on screen, or like you can't see the product clearly, or there's no text on the ad. 80 to 90% of impressions on Facebook are with the sound off, but a lot of the time people won't put text on their ads. That stuff makes a massive difference to your overall performance. one more is the amount of times that I see people post ads on Facebook that are 16 by 9, so they're wide screen ads. But think about the medium. Like, you're on your phone, like you're scrolling upwards. If you have a 1:1 image or a 4:5 image, that takes up proportionally like twice or 3 times as much space on that user's screen. You have their attention for 2x or 3x the amount of time. Like, you think about how much impact that makes over 100,000 impressions. It's massive. It's really, really significant. I see it all the time.
And like those little things like that you mentioned, I mean, I kind of maybe subconsciously or notice them for a second all the time. Like when I'm scrolling through Facebook and I'm like, well, this is sort of interesting, but there's no captions on it, so I'll just keep
Yeah.
scrolling past, and like I'm sure it's interesting, but it doesn't quite grab me. And it's like one of those things where it's if you're so close to it, if you're making the ad, if it's your offer, it's hard to see just how a complete absolute with no exposure to your brand sees these ads for the very first time. So I mean, yeah, that's huge. And even you're kind of mentioning they're like a little bit of like a AIDA, right? Like a attention, interest, desire, action, and like getting that initial hook and at least getting them excited with something that wakes them up and gives them a reason just to pay attention for the next few seconds. I mean, classic marketing, but it's so simple, it's so basic. So many people just want to skip over that and just jump to like, oh, what are the mechanics of my Facebook ad? Yeah, but you can do the mechanics all day long if you don't even know. But if you don't know what the base is, then what are you even leading towards? So we've been talking a little bit so far about like some of this like marketing theory or these ideas in kind of concept form. But what's really exciting is to hear about the case studies, right? The success story. So does any fun, interesting story come to mind as far as one of these companies you helped where you jumped in and they needed some of your assistance and you made things super great for them?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the best example, the example that we use all the time is this client from Muirway. He's a wonderful client. And I think like was in the situation that a lot of small to medium businesses are in, where he's found success. He makes really beautiful maps, like kind of 3D looking maps. You can buy them on the walls of REI. Like anyone who like goes to the outdoors or like has a fascination with the outdoor environment, like would love one of these on their wall. And he came to us, he's doing like 30 to 50K a month in revenue, which is great. You know, like he's like worked for a long time to get to that point. But was kind of hitting a wall, like was really having trouble scaling past that. And we took over Facebook, we took over Google Ads, we took over email, and we were able to first of all, we gave him his first $1 million Q4, which was huge. And then he's now up, I think last time I looked, it was like 600% year on year. So really insane, really, really significant growth. And none of it's rocket science. Like you said, like it shouldn't be complicated. If someone's coming in and they're telling you this like insanely complicated marketing strategy, like they're probably overthinking it. Usually it's the opposite. It's someone is overthinking their existing strategy and it's holding them back from scaling because they're worried about something or they're too close to the product. And that's why agencies are really, really helpful because we have seen enough products that we can kind of pattern match and be like, yeah, we know that this works. The reason why we know this works is it's working on 100 other brands. So it's not even rocket science. It's just restructuring the ad account, getting star ratings approved on Google Shopping. This is a huge thing that I would say 80% of people who come to us have not done. You should be collecting customer reviews on your website. You should be passing those to Google. And they should be displayed on a Google Shopping feed. So when someone Googles your brand, you see your products lined up with star ratings, 50 plus star rating reviews. That caused 100% conversion rate increase overnight. It's just one tiny little thing that you can do. And then there were a number of other examples of things that we were able to optimize that created that amount of movement in the business, like improving the creative, doing segmentation, remarketing lists. And what it should look like, if you're kind of doing it correctly, it shouldn't look like one big revelation that like opens up the business or a completely new thing. It should look like a ton of little optimizations, common sense optimizations that you just probably don't know about, haven't thought about, or no one's told you, that create an exponential impact when they're multiplied together. If you increase conversion rate by 0.5%, you increase the quality of your traffic by 20%. If you increase AOV by 20%, you increase reorder rate by 20%. All of those things multiply by each other and cause like huge increases in your business.
And you know what, when you're explaining all that, what the analogy that comes to mind is like, let's say you're living a terrible lifestyle and you want to get healthy, and
Yeah.
you just fix one thing. Well, it's not going to make up for the others, and you might not even stick with it. But if you say, well, I'll drink one more glass of water per day, I'll walk 10 minutes a day, I'll like eat fast food one less time per week, like you're saying, all those things kind of have the compounding effect, and it's like all like common sense things that we all know that we should be doing, but then you just kind of, and you focus on like one area at a time and kind of see what works. And I mean, it makes it very reassuring, especially like you're saying, the strategy does not have to be complicated. And same thing, if you say, I've got this incredible idea for losing weight and getting healthy, I'm going to do these 5 things, and sets up these other 5 things, like it's such a complicated spider web versus, well, what are the basics, what are the fundamentals, what's working, what am I missing, and then maybe go back and do it from scratch. And so you said that in this case, you said, well, we'll take over the email, and we'll take over like the Facebook ads, things like that. Is that normally the case? Is that normally you say like, here's these sections, and we'll like take over this piece or that piece? Or like, what's the approach for you and your team jumping in and doing the work?
So typically we actually do this a little differently from other agencies. So the first thing that we will do with a client is a real 360 audit. So we jump in all of the accounts, it's the paid audit. We jump in the accounts and we look at everything. We build a really, really extensive roadmap of, okay, here is what we would do in the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Here's the kinds of results you should be able to expect over the first year. And then here are the action items that we would knock out were we to take the account. And like we've been talking about, like none of this is rocket science. It's just like stuff you haven't thought of. Either stuff you haven't thought of, or stuff you've tried to execute and failed to execute, or stuff that is just kind of out of left field. That's like, oh yeah, that'll probably make a difference. We built that list of things across all the different domains that we work on. So Facebook ads, Google ads, email, website stuff, what we call fractional CMO, which is really about the kind of technology stack, the data layer, how's everything talking to each other. Then also the creative. So we dig really deep into that. We deliver our clients like, hey, here's like what we think you should do. And then they take it or leave it. Either we execute that exact list of things for them, or they take it and they do other work with it. But it really does start from looking into the business and getting a sense of where is the opportunity here, and then building alignment around the roadmap in order to get those things done.
That seems very logical. Just like here's the channels, and here's the timeline, and here's the like 30 days and 60 days and 90 days, and starting with the audit. I mean, that seems like a logical way to hack away at this big elephant and this big problem. Just like attack it kind of one piece at a time there. And so yeah. So we've said that the thing that a lot of people are missing out on is lack of marketing fundamentals, and an easy win for a lot of people is to focus on things like Google Shopping, or getting like things like reviews in there. And so as far as where things are headed, as far as the future, as far as like e-commerce and maybe even your agency, like what's on the horizon here? What's coming next?
Collecting more customer data. That's the biggest piece that we're going to see, whether that's through quizzes, surveys, pop-ups. There will be a movement towards lead generation at an earlier stage for e-commerce companies because of the challenges that we're going to see around data collection and data privacy. What companies that are going to succeed are going to build customer experiences that provide real value at every single stage that involve gathering more data earlier in the process. So for skincare brands have been playing this game for years. The first touch point with skincare brands is often a quiz. A lot of the time you'll land on a skincare brand's website and be like, take our quiz, learn exactly what products work for us, for you. So there's a value exchange there, which is that the customer gets really specific products recommended to them that exactly match their specific ailments. And the brand gets information that they can use to remarket to their customer. They have their email address, probably, they have a list of their specific skin concerns, they have what they're looking for. And that value exchange is, you're going to see more and more and more of that, much more interactivity on websites, pre-purchase. And it's just going to be like that because the way that marketing works, marketing is becomes cheaper when you have the data to leverage, and we're going to get less and less data out of the email platforms and out of Facebook and out of Google, because they're becoming more walled gardens. So it's incumbent on brands to start building their own repository of customer data, but then using that for good. And by for good, I mean to deliver value, like not just to kind of creepily retarget ads to people, but like to make sure that they are answering the needs, meeting the needs of their customers and providing solutions to the problems that they have, genuine solutions to the problems that they have. It's that simple.
And yeah, and you make it simple, and it could be complicated, but why not just put it in simple terms? And like you're kind of articulating something that I think we've all been seeing, where I mean, you always hear about how crowded things are, and you always hear about how expensive ads are, but like you're saying, if you can get that super long tail figured out, if you're selling window blinds, but you're selling window blinds for a hexagonal living room has high ceilings, and if someone is searching for that exact thing and you can provide that exact thing in some way with your funnel, I mean, you'll win where others lose. And you always hear about how, you know, the front page of Facebook for me is drastically different for you, and in a lot of ways like Amazon. And I mean, it would be amazing at some point if your typical Shopify store was just like completely different for me as it was for you, right? If I took the quiz, or if there was like something where I was like tagged in this way or that way, I mean, that's some amazing, mind-blowing stuff. And also something that keeps coming to mind as far as like some of your answers here is that there's things like there's like trends or innovations that maybe get used a lot in one industry that kind of take a while to find their way into other markets, other industries. And so someone like you and your agency who's kind of seen everything and seeing what everyone's doing, I imagine that you can sometimes try something new up and coming that's been done over in this space and try it over in someone else's space where no one else is doing it, with none of the competitors are even aware of this.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, exactly. That's exactly it. And really what is happening is e-commerce is going to start taking a little more from the SaaS space. So SaaS is a very developed lead gen model, right? Like the personalized shopping and a very developed lead gen model. If I go on HubSpot, I always use HubSpot as my example for some reason. If I go on HubSpot.com and if I go on HubSpot.com, they know who I work for. They're like running that data out, enriching it, figuring out my IP, figuring out who I work for, and then they'll send me an email, whether or not I give them my email or not. Secondly, like they're trying to get me on the phone right away. They're trying to gather customer data, get me on the phone, deliver a personalized experience that is relevant to me, and provide content that helps me along my journey of solving the problem that I have. So e-commerce companies are always a little bit behind SaaS, but just because it's like, the rewards are you're not going to make billions of dollars running an e-commerce company, right? So it's like there's just less forward momentum in the industry, but those techniques are working, and they're becoming cheaper to execute. So we will see more of that, more personalization, more lead gen, more kind of that style of stuff come from the SaaS industry into e-commerce for sure.
Well, fantastic. Well, if people watching and listening are excited and intrigued and curious about these trends that are up and coming and all the things to pay attention to, how can they take the next step here? I mean, tell us about Loop Club, which is at loop.club. Tell us why we should go there and what to do there and why we should do it now instead of waiting.
Yeah, so visit us on loop.club and we can help you. If you are a Shopify e-commerce brand, we almost certainly have some information that can help you, just from the amount of experience that we have in the space. So visit that website and book a call with me and my team, and we can walk you through where we see the opportunity and help set you up for success.
Well, fantastic. So that is at loop.club. And if you are a e-commerce brand that's doing at least $20K per month on paid media, then contact Tim and his team. They can do 360 audit. They can do all kinds of things to get your brand and your company to greatness. Instead of just taking the same actions, getting the same results, why not try something new? And why not have this team of professionals who they eat and breathe and sleep all this stuff to make your e-commerce brand what it can and what it should be and get the word out the place to go is LOOP.CLUB, walk, don't run, loop.club, and we'll see you there. And anything to say just to wrap up our conversation here, Tim, any final like parting words of advice or anything you think we left out here?
I think this was really great. I think the next 6 months is going to be a lot of change in the ecosystem. So just like, don't panic, and we're going to get through it. And just keep like, if you're in the e-commerce space, we're seeing growth in the industry, right? So you will be okay, and just think macro instead of micro, and we'll make it through together.